for the delay. I'll call this meeting to order. Our invocation this evening will be given by Pastor Paul Flippo from the New Life Worship Center. I'm going to ask you please to stand for the invocation and then remain standing for the pledge to the flag.
Like I say, I appreciate each of you for the opportunity to come and ask God's blessing and direction for this meeting tonight. And there's much to be said from God's Word about that, seeking God's direction in all paths of life, no matter what level it is. So I think this is a good thing, and we thank you for this opportunity tonight. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you tonight for this opportunity to come before you, ask for guidance and blessings, Lord, in all that we endeavor to do throughout our lives and, Lord, our communities, for this county. God, we ask for your blessings and direction upon each representative here tonight and, Lord, throughout this meeting. And God, we just want to give you praise and thanks, all the blessings that you have bestowed upon us throughout this year. We give you praise and glory for it all. In Jesus' name we ask it. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Thank you, Pastor Flippo, for those words. I can only speak for myself, but I need all the help I can get. So, and I'm sure most everybody up here agrees with that. So. All right. Next item is consideration of a resolution to approve our agenda. I'm told that item number 2 under new business needs to be removed. The City of Guyton has not taken action on their side. It needs to happen before we take that up. So I would ask that we remove item number 2. Any other changes or corrections?
Make a motion to approve the agenda with the removal of new business item number 2.
Let me rephrase that with the microphone. Make a motion to approve the agenda with the removal of new business item number 2.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Kiefer, second by Commissioner Deloach. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve the minutes for the November 17th, 2015 regular commissioners meeting. Any changes or corrections? Motion.
Make a motion to approve November 17th minutes.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Loper, second by Commissioner Floyd. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
I abstain, Mr. Chairman, I forgot to.
And let the record show Commissioner Kiefer abstaining from that vote, since he was not present for that meeting. All right. It should be noted that public comment should be limited to our agenda items only. And the correspondence documents from this meeting are located in the clerk's office and on the Board of Commissioners website. First item of new business, consideration to approve a final plat and deed accepting infrastructure in Edwards Commercial Park located off U.S. Highway 80.
Mr. Chairman, the subdivision plat requested is 10 lots, 3 of which were previously approved via minor subdivision plat. Water and sewer services are to be provided by, water services by the Lakeside Water Company, and sewer is provided via individual septic systems. You have a letter in your package up there from Lakeside stating they have adequate capacity and desire to provide infrastructure for services to this particular development. The plans for this particular commercial park were approved back in 2006 and construction was completed in 2007. Since then, this particular development is largely sat dormant. As we said, there's one existing industry in there, was created by a plat back in 2006. There was another one recorded, I believe, in the very January of this year that created 2 additional lots. One of those is under construction at this particular time. Public Works did an inspection on this particular development, and what they recommended was sealing of some cracks in some roads, and I'm not entirely sure we've ever really done that with anyone. Staff is recommending that the infrastructure maintenance bond, the 10% bond is waived on this because it's been there since 2007. It's typically a one-year bond. We received and reviewed the final plat checklist and warranty deed, as well as the attorney, as well as the deed in that. And all documents are in order, consistent, with the previous approval that was given on this. There's $14.83, and I haven't seen the road and taxes. They weren't due at the time. I'm sure they've been paid. If not, we'll make sure that they are prior to acceptance, so they have been paid at this point. With that, staff would recommend acceptance of this particular subdivision plat and acceptance of the infrastructure, which there's really no storm drainage in there. It's all roadside swales and ditches, and we are not accepting the detention line in this, and that's specifically included in the deed as our water lines.
I thought that had been, except they come to us and request this, or is this one that we just been?
No, so that came to us. It's never been platted. The infrastructure was created, but of the 10 lots you see here, 3 exist over on this one side. Other than that, there's just one lot.
Do we have an easement across the detention area?
Yes, sir. We reserve ourselves in the deed right of easements as shown by drainage easement. It's kind of hard to see on the second half of 11, but there's an easement over the pond, so we have the right to access that. And there's a note on the plat number 12 also. Drainage maintenance access easement throughout lot 5, which is the detention pond, shall be for the use and maintained by the owners of the lots, but it not become responsibility. So, and then in the deed, we specifically listed those easements out as us having access rights to anything, so drainage easement.
So if I understand, staff is recommending that we accept it upon payment of the, any outstanding taxes due.
Yes, sir, which I understand have been paid now. Yes, we want to make sure that has done, that we don't pay that. It was this year's current taxes that weren't due in the staff report.
And to waive any bond for the road.
Correct, based on the fact that it's been built for, since 2007 or 8, a good 5-6 years here.
Any questions? Motion, that's over to the district.
Yeah, I make a motion we approve the final plat for any commercial park.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Floyd, second by Commissioner Loper. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
I'm
Item
sorry,
number
Mr.
2.
Chairman. Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just for clarification, Mr. Floyd,
Mhm.
final plat approval and deed, did you say the deed? And here it
I
says.
read alternative 1. That's actually included, right?
And accept the infrastructure, and I'll call you said, I know you said approve the final plat.
Well, for clarification, without objection from any other board member, would you restate your motion to
To include what now?
The deed acceptance,
The infrastructure and deed acceptance.
the final plat and deed.
Plat and deed.
Yes, sir.
So that's your motion restated. Commissioner Loper, do you
Second.
agree to that?
Yes.
And for the board, how say you?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried again. Well, we got a clerk, keep us straight. All right. Next item, consideration to approve a resolution of surplus.
Mr. Chairman, we received a request from, the county owns a 1 acre parcel of land on Hodgeville Road that was used in the past for refuge collection. It has not been used since we went to countywide recycling or trash pickup. We currently have no beneficial use for the land. They would like to have requested to purchase the property, and of course, we have to surplus that and advertise it for sealed bid. And what you have in front of you is a resolution for surplus of the 1 acre located off of Hodgeville Road. And there's a legal description that goes along with that, as well as a warranty deed and plat of the property. And there's also an invitation for sale by seal bid, which is the document we would use to advertise this particular property. There's some things in there highlighted in yellow, which are dates that we didn't fill in until after, you all approved it, so we would know when to do it. And there's also a couple of references within this document that the minimum amount that we would accept is tax value. The tax value as done by the assessors is $48,000. What staff would suggest is that we will strike that as tax value, just put the amount in there. You know, that the minimum that we will accept is $48,000. If y'all would accept that one change in this document, or any other changes y'all may have.
Sort of steep, that one over lot there.
No, it's on commercial.
And the other one's on page 4, number 11, Jim, the basis of award. I was telling you, fair market value is determined by tax value. You would strike it there and put whatever dollar figure you all say. If you want to put a dollar figure, again, it's the setup amount is tax value, which is $48,000.
There was a party that approached us about this, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you know if that number has been presented to them?
I'm sorry, I was looking, Phil's law this, but I don't know. That's why Phil was looking at it, like I was crazy, among other reasons.
Well, I would ask the board to approve this, but I would like to see that tax value stricken to be more definitive amount of $48,000. I'll take a motion.
Where is that mentioned in the document?
It's on page 4 of the document, and unfortunately I don't print mine like y'all, I don't know what it is, but it's number 11.
Okay.
If you look at number 11, basis of award, like midway through there, the third sentence down in number 11. And then it also shows up again on page 7, which is the bid schedule. And it says sale to be the highest responsible bidder, provided that blah, 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 tax value. It's the very first sentence in that list of bullets down there.
Don't feel bad, I read through it 3 times.
I know, because I'm trying to read it.
Well, I said I think it would just be a little more definitive.
Everybody else? And I'll make a motion to approve alternative number 1, but to remove all references to the fair market value as referencing the tax value and include the dollar value of $48,000.
So, motion by Commissioner Kiefer, second by Commissioner Deloach. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve change order number 1 for Carroll & Carroll Incorporated for the 2015 road resurfacing project.
Mr. Chairman, the contractor submitted a letter which should be included in y'all's packages that came to us requesting an extension of 90 days to that contract date. I'm trying to see, that was the original date was 1/5/2016 that needed to be through. That would extend that date to 4/4/2016. Would be your new end date. You know, the contract bill on days, it doesn't have a specific date, but those dates, if you work them out, would be 4/4/16 and be your new date. They, again, submitted that request to us, and what they cited in their letter was the abnormal amounts of rain that we've had recently. I will say the contract under 2.23 includes rain delays in the number, and it has some language about if you want to claim additional rain days, how you do it. They didn't necessarily meet that. They submitted in their letter a total number of inches, kind of grouped in weeks, or supposed to add it per day, of days they can't work. And, so I'll try to communicate it. But that was their request. I have had a conversation with the contractor in which, we are contractually obligated to finish Caribbean Village Drive. That when we took money from Park West, we told him we finish it by December 31st or January 1, and we would look at it. He has agreed to do that, the Caribbean Village Drive. And there was an additional,
How much work's
I don't know the answer to that. I'd have to get the list back out. Off the top of my head, I would say about half of what was originally out there. They still-
Last year, we got a situation where we couldn't do some paving because of cold weather. Is that going to affect us moving into the?
It is. That was the other thing they cited in their letter was the restrictions placed on placing the single surface treatment and hot mix asphalt. And some of the days, no, we've not had cold days either.
It is forecasting we've had a pretty harsh winter, so, but.
I don't have a problem with giving 90-day extension, they're nothing bad weather.
I wonder if they can get it done in 90 days.
Well, the bottom line is if we give them 90 days conditional upon them finishing Caribbean Village, I would like to tell them they gotta have it done by December 15th or something like that, not by December 31st. There's no way that we're going to rebid it and get somebody else to do it and meet our December 31st deadline that we're contractually obligated to meet. So
No, so we're not. And again, he's once again reiterated their commitment to have Caribbean Village Drive completed this year. And in regards to the other thing we're asking, he's basically citing the temperature restrictions on, some of the high bill paint and the grassing and some of the things that rain in the winter that are gonna carry over. So I think the problem with not granting them the extension is the contract set up for liquidated damages of $250 a day for every day they're delinquent in this contract. And it's punitive in nature, but if they're hurrying up, it may create less of a problem for us too. We're this far into it, a few more days to get a better product is probably a better solution.
But theoretically, if we told them December 15th, they could make that if they had to.
Maybe 2 weeks.
I don't know, Chairman, because I'm not even meeting with him until the 8th, which is next Monday, because he's going to be out of town the rest of this week to discuss getting started. That's probably going to be a little bit tough. Now, he did say he'd have it by the end of the year, and if you recall, that was got about 10 inches of asphalt too. That was the one that they went to stack, and there's traffic. It's going to take them a little while.
All right. I just expressed my concerns, but there's nothing else we can do. There's no way, because it's $100,000 or more, there's no way that we can go out and rebid it and get somebody else to do it.
No, sir. No, sir. Not legal, yeah.
All right.
There's several doing that.
Somebody give me the motion.
I make a motion to approve alternative one, granting a 90-day extension to the original contract.
Second.
Would it be appropriate cost to put it in there that provided they finish Caribbean Village Drive by December 31st?
I would prefer that, Chairman, just so that it's in the motion, there's no ambiguity that they're going to finish. I kind of thought there was an alternative one, but I completely lost the whole thing.
Would you be amicable to amending your motion to include?
I make a motion to approve alternative one, granting a 90-day extension to the original contract time. Also, completing Caribbean Village Drive by December 31st of 2015.
I have a motion by Commissioner Blow, second by Commissioner Floyd. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve a joint resolution between Effingham County and the City of Guyton for fire protection services for the Tusculum Fire Station.
Mr. Chairman, as y'all all realize, we constructed the Tusculum Fire Station, and it's been complete for probably 6 months or so now. And we've had the station is actually about 100 yards into Guyton's fire district, the location of it. Now, the service delivery agreement contemplated that it would be built, the county would operate it, but it was supposed to be on the other side of Tusculum Road, just outside of the fire boundary, and we've met with Guyton and their fire chief, I guess, within some of those meetings, I believe, at the time, their public safety director, Chief Lundy, and everybody's fine with us doing this, but just to make sure there was no issues to the service delivery agreements themselves, Mr. Newberry and Mr. Smith got together and crafted this joint resolution. As you can see, it's already been approved and signed by the City of Guyton. And it basically just says we're going to operate it and the service delivery will remain in place. It's really about all it says. This will allow us to actually move into the station, get out of Griffin's Lakes, and begin to operate a station that's sitting there vacant. And with that, staff will recommend y'all approve it.
Is the station complete?
Yes, sir.
Been complete for quite a while now.
It's been quite a while, yes, sir. We've been working with Guyton for a while to get concurrence on this, and we're close.
Any questions? Motion?
Make a motion to approve alternate number 1, approve the joint resolution with the City of Guyton.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Loper, second by Commissioner Deloach. All in favor? Any opposed? So carries. Next item, consideration to approve a resolution for a budget amendment for fiscal year 2015-2016 for the transfer station.
Good evening. As the board knows, each year we put before you different projects. One of those projects is the new transfer station at what most people refer to as the landfill, but it's actually a transfer station. And during our short-term work program, we allocated $50,000 to do that particular project. Now that we actually have it engineered and designed and made some changes to it so that it flowed better and it was more versatile for the public, the project itself has an estimated cost of $125,000. In this particular case, staff felt like that we did not want to use our SPLOST funds because we already have those SPLOST funds allotted, and that it would be more conducive to actually appropriate that from the general fund. And so we are requesting a budget amendment to go forward with that particular project. I believe all the documents have been pulled together. The attorney has reviewed those documents and it should be out for bid this next week.
The spots is $50,000, so it's more than doubling them, and now they need $75,000 more.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Wow, we must have had some bad engineering work on that.
The first number, I think, was
The original estimate was probably too low of an original estimate.
Correct. And I think we had made some changes as to what we actually were doing out there and how that whole project's going to flow, the number of cans involved and so forth. And so this is the rendition as it currently is engineered.
Remind me in the end result, I know this happens in this fiscal year, but in the long run, savings of personnel and other costs is going to offset this.
That's correct, sir.
So it's not like we're just throwing $125,000 out there. It's
You see, that's like the problem when we end up coming down to this kind of scenario. When it's originally sold to us, all those points of here's what you're going to save and all that is on that meeting. And then we come down months later to this meeting and it's like, hey, oops, by the way, the cost is more, but none of those other factors are here. So it's hard for us to recalculate about the sensibility of it. And then also, probably something that we want to be very careful about, is that we aren't always making decisions that ends up costing us more after our first vote. But I know at this point in time, if we're going to move forward with this, you need a budget amendment. That's the point of this request, is to get that budget amendment. So.
And I think in the long run, this is a capital project. Therefore, the savings overall will be there. It may take a few more years to do that.
Somebody remind me, what's the completion date of getting this thing done?
We had 6 months from the date of that contract, and that contract wasn't done until October, I believe, 1st or 15th.
It's October 1.
October 1.
6 months from October 1.
So April 1. So all of the cost expenditure winds up being in this fiscal year, and then budgets, personnel and everything will wind up theoretically being in the next fiscal.
Most of it, yeah. There were some savings this year too, we made changes, but yeah, it'll be the recurring costs from here on out. That's right.
But one of the reasons for this request was because you're changing this from SPOS to general fund, and you had some financial reasons that would be beneficial to the county for that as well. Right?
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions? Motion.
Motion that we approve and budget amendment.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Walker, all in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve a resolution for a budget amendment for fiscal year 2015-16 for the drug court.
Yes, sir. As you recall, earlier this year, y'all approved us receiving a grant on behalf of the drug court. In that grant, there was some administrative budgeting for an individual person to coordinate that. The drug court felt like they could get a budget amendment from the state to use those funds for other purposes within their program. The state did not allow that budget amendment, and as such, we are not receiving as much in those grant funds as originally intended to help fund that particular function. Sheriff Jimmy McDuffie called and noted that he had received some additional funds on behalf of his office, and that amount was $5,000, and requested that those additional funds of revenue be slotted to help out with the drug court. And so we have this budget amendment which will basically increase our revenue on one side and increase the expense for the drug court. And so we ask for your approval of Sheriff McDuffie's request.
The $5,000 revenue was not figured in the budget on the revenue side. This is new money.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
So it's a wash.
It's a wash.
That's correct.
And that's a fine that's collected over a period of time, am I correct?
No, sir, we already have those funds and they're already receipted and deposited.
Well, I hate that people have to pay fines, but I'm appreciative of the sheriff being willing to share.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? Motion?
Make a motion that we approve staff recommendation. Alternative number 1, allow the 5,000 budget amendment to go to the drug court.
Second. And motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Floyd. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve a resolution and authorize the chairman to sign an application for the Georgia Recreation Trails Program. This is just another one that we talked about.
We talked about it last meeting when we were talking about the LWCF grant. This is at the recreation complex. It's a part of the trail. I'll be glad to discuss it along with short but yes, it is a matching grant, 80-20, but the 20% match is what we were planning on spending on that project anyhow. Would be in the budget of that project. there's any questions, I'll be glad to explain it, but
You understand? Okay. Yeah, I mean, you weren't here the last meeting, so basically, it's grant money that we can apply for, hope we get it, it's money we're gonna spend anyhow. Hey, if we can get this, this helps us.
correct.
Motion?
Make a motion, we approve the resolution authorizing the chairman to sign the application.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Floyd, second by Commissioner Kiefer, all in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve a list of candidates for the Hospital Authority Board.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Before you have applications, member profile applications for citizens who are interested in being appointed to the hospital board, there are terms that are either expired or expiring. And it's my understanding that you guys should review and approve this list prior to the hospital authority making an approval.
I would swear if we did it last year.
I'm sorry.
Patricia, I thought that we did that last year. We go through this every year, so.
Well,
That's what you tell me.
Maybe it's filled up an expired
Yeah.
term.
Oh, she was saying it.
It could have been filled an expired term.
She's been there since I.
Yeah.
I didn't know she was up again.
I asked about that when you mentioned it before, and that's what they're telling me.
Well, I've been on there a long time, so I,
I see some of those traditional ones, I'm sure.
now remind me, we submit 5 names.
You're supposed to submit 3 names
3.
for each district. But I questioned, if you don't have 3 names, what do we do? She said that you can submit what you have, so. And then they can find
It is,
Right.
you submit 3 names, they interview and either accept one or deny all 3. If they deny all 3, you have to submit 3 new
That's
names,
right.
but they have to take one of those 3. If I recall correctly.
I knew there was some that's
yes.
trying with them.
They get the final say.
I can give you one name, so if you do that, I'll find another.
Somebody give me a motion.
Make a motion to approve alternate number 1.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Loper, second by Commissioner Deloach. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve the first reading of an ordinance to amend Article 3, Chapter 14, abandoned buildings of the Effingham County Code of Ordinances.
Mr. Chairman, we had, the attorneys went through our existing ordinances regarding abandoned buildings and made some changes to bring it back into compliance with current law. I think it was previously approved in '94, I believe, and it was not in compliance with current state laws. So he basically rewritten a bunch of those, quite a bit of changes here. And I think probably the best thing we can do here is just kind of go through and see what questions y'all have, what you think about it, and have a little bit of dialogue and discussion, and see if we can get this thing into a shape that we can bring back to y'all for approval, unless y'all are comfortable approving it as it sits. We've had some discussions as staff. There's, a few things we think we might need to work on, tweak, maybe some input from you all. And I don't know if anyone's had a chance to read it and has particular questions, concerns, things we can go over, or how you want to go about it. Do y'all have anything you want to address specifically before we get started?
Does this just bring it into compliance with state law, or does it go above that? I'm just trying to.
Kind of a loaded question. It's in compliance with state law. You could obviously add certain sections, take sections out. It's kind of at the bare minimum with some extra. So yeah, I would appreciate input. I mean, I drafted it, and once I got into it, it was like, wow, okay, this is a pretty big endeavor. But what we have is workable. It's just, I mean, that would be the time to look at the whole section, not just abandoned buildings. That's what I was asking appreciate any feedback, and I agree with Mr. Allen that, you know, it may need to be further revised, after some comments.
Well, one thing that, and I don't know if I've asked this in the timeframe that you've been our legal counsel, but one thing that I do ask is when we update something, that we do it in red line so we can see the changes from the old to the new.
With this, it was a
You just
more
totally rewrote it?
total revision, yes,
Okay.
because the other one was so old, but yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so for nothing else, for time's sake, can we go through it just with you, without reading it word for word, but go through it section by section and just tell us, section by section, not definitions, of course, but, the short version on it, so that when we can put some further thought into the next reading. But in other words, section 14.73, I guess that's after the definition starts with the duty of the property owner. That particular section talks about what is typically the duty of the homeowner. Correct?
Correct.
And I don't know if Commissioner...
Maybe 1471, you know, begins it kind of outlines what is considered a public nuisance.
Well, that's...
It's more of a declaration that there could be a problem that exists, and if you flip further into 1476, it tells you about the standards for determining what unfitness for habitation is, kind of a framework to work within. So you kind of got to bounce around with it. But basically, if there's a structure that is unsanitary, you're going to have citizens can report it to the county. We've got a designated building or housing official that are designated as the county engineer and the code enforcement officer, and then they have authority to designate it to someone below. But then they have the ability to investigate the structure. And then at that point, if they agree that it fits the definition of being unsanitary, then it would go to the state court. And it would be a court hearing where the state court judge would render a decision on whether it is or not. And if he does find that it is, he's going to have to list the facts that support his opinion.
Did it leave in here a term to rectify prior to the court hearing?
Yes, that's in. It may be enforcement, they have the ability to fix the problem, so to speak.
Yeah, in other words, when our people go out and verify, yes, if there's a problem, then we give them some kind of notice that says, we've been given this information about 5 citizens, we have validated it through the staff, and you have whatever time frame to rectify, or the next option would be to go to state court. Is that right? That was in the original one somewhere.
Well, I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot. I have skimmed this, and
I haven't had
that's
to
it.
read word for word, and that's...
I have skimmed it.
Well, I definitely think it's something that needs to be read word for word for us to really get into it and figure out what we want to do. I don't think we want to make it.
I agree with that, but what I was trying to understand was the basics, so that we could give you input tonight back if there was something that we knew needed to be added or changed.
Yeah, I hear you.
So that we're not starting over.
Yeah, I mean, what you said a second ago, that's definitely something that's not in there. If you want to give them a period of time after the county makes the decision that they feel it's unfit, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
to remedy the situation. But
Has this been patterned after any other adjacent county?
I've looked at several counties as kind of a compilation, I guess. And then the statute is very specific as well. So some of this is going to track the actual state statute dealing with it.
In line with what Commissioner Kiefer was asking, I don't know if maybe, do you want him to show us what is in compliance with state and what is either, and what's...
Well, that probably would be hard to do.
Well, he's given state law references on
Yeah.
all of these different things.
It's all in, obviously, in compliance with state, what that statute requires is that if you wanted to add more to it.
Okay, so am I understanding that there is nothing that's above state in here? That's what I was trying to get to. If there's something above state, you can put that in red and say, okay, it won't take this to meet state, and I've added it. Because if we're just doing a minimum of state, we can say, okay, well, we're going along with what state does. But if we've got something in here that's other than that, I'm trying to figure out how to understand that.
Yeah, it may be a procedure, not necessarily a standard that's above what the state requires. But yeah, I mean, I can go back and do that.
Yeah, just make it, let us know somehow which things might be.
Well, I mean, I think we would need to read the 94, what we have, and understand that, and then compare it to this. I don't know if I can go and highlight and say this is the only difference, because it's, what we had before was very different. It had the county being basically the judge and the jury, and now we're moving it to state court where it should be.
It's better. That's better.
It's better, yes, instead of us making the decision.
It takes us the liability on us.
But short of going above state law, would those 5 citizens not now have legal recourse without this ordinance?
They definitely have their own recourse pursuant to the state statute. They wouldn't have to go through the county to accomplish this. They could hire their own legal counsel and proceed the same way.
Because ultimately, it's, within the law standard, it's something that is, what's the?
The nuisance law, that's what they would be proceeding under, which is what this is. But they're gonna have to incur the expense, and I guess that's where.
This is more or less streamlining that process. More or less.
Or it's saying to the county, you have, because I have a citizen from my district here, and I'll try to speak for her, and if you want to add some words, but I think this is more or less what she said to me from her opinion, is that the county, you have ordinances, and so don't you have some responsibility also, along with us citizens, to try to see that there's some rectification in your own ordinances, or you just don't have to do anything? You know, I think that's her perspective, is that right?
I think it's our responsibility to inherit the property.
Well, and so that's what I'm saying. Yes, the citizens could go do it on their own, but also, you know, it's giving them to be able to come through us, because we do have some ordinances in place that say, yeah, we also, this is against what our requirements are.
I'm not against it, I mean, I did that for personal property rights. I'm like to be very careful on situations like that.
And I'm agreeing on that.
The question that I have is where it says by at least 5 residents. Is that a requirement in the state? Or is that something that we're putting in there so that we're not chasing every complaint that comes in the door?
That was in the statute?
It's in the statute.
Yes.
So how could one person, so if one person thought they would have to get 4 others to sign a petition and join with them?
Well, I think it prevents a situation where you have.
Frivolous things, trying to send.
You neighbors don't like it, so they don't write you up or something.
It helps prevent.
Well, also, it's truly a derelict property, and there's only one neighbor, and there's only one person that it affects.
But see, that's what I don't know is what is state law? Because we can't we can't go lower than state standard, correct?
Correct.
But Mr. Chairman, the same thing says whenever a request is filed with the housing official or by at least 5 residents, so it's filed with the housing, or is it by? I was trying to say if you had 1 resident, could the housing official actually do it on their own or 5, but maybe I misread that.
Well, that,
I mean,
you're talking
With the housing
you're talking
official,
about
by public authority, okay, I'm sorry.
1474.
Yeah, by public authority or at least 5.
Right. The county definitely could initiate it on its own. It would need a citizen to start the process.
Well, for me, and I think this is what Beer was trying to, I don't know what of this document we can't change the state standard. I mean, it's part of the statute.
Right. That's what I was getting to.
Yeah, I definitely understand that, but it's kind of hard for me to know what you're looking for.
So what we can do is we can read through this section and then refer to these attachments that's been given to us, the official code of Georgia.
That's what I was trying to avoid, was us have to read the whole state law ourselves. and have to read this ourselves and figure out what's according to state law and what's not, and could you point that out to us?
I think it's a nice way to say it, no.
Well, it would just be helpful if you could tell me, what would you like to see in there?
Yeah.
What concerns do you have?
Like, if this is a concern, he can sit down and say, well, no, that's part of the state statute, we can't mess with that.
I can do that.
Because I would say, what's in there
Yeah, I understand.
is probably.
Might list the number of things you need to have to respond to.
Yeah, let's just say everything in there is the minimum. I mean, we have a good framework here. If you want to go above and beyond on one of these provisions that you don't like the way it's written, then we can.
Well, I don't want to push something that we're gonna have a problem with later. And like I said, I've skimmed it. I have not sat down and digested it.
Well, the problem is this, we've had this ordinance for all these years, and we've been told it did not
It
exist.
didn't exist.
So we've had citizens come to us with complaints, and we've told them, and our staff has told them, that there was no ordinance that it existed, but ultimately there was one that
I
existed.
can remember.
And they've been waiting around forever on properties that have been abandoned for years and years. And so now we do need to, there's one way to get it in some form of that we can live with acting upon it. And if it takes longer to perfect it, I don't want to be loosey-goosey about it, but I mean, we need to do something that's effective and start with it, so.
Toss from, you made a statement, I think, said staff thought there might be some tweaking. Do you know of any specific items that staff has a problem with?
There's one that mentioned.
A couple little things, like we were, Lee and I were talking earlier, whether it should be the county engineer or the building official, small things, who the housing official is. The 5 residents that come up, should there be some restriction on the distance to the blighted property that they need to be, or can it just be, people from all over the county? Should they have to have proverbial skin in the game, if you will?
See, this is helpful.
And then some of the things that I've just written down that y'all are asking about timeframes, under 14.7B, when the complaint's filed, we may have a timeframe that we'll actually go out and do the investigation, may be helpful. And then further down, maybe that timeframe between when we do the investigation, we give the homeowner some, a chance to respond before just putting it in court to actually respond back to it.
Well, I definitely wanted that. I did try to read the first one, and I know I had seen something in the original one that we had that I think for everybody, for personal property rights protection, we want to have done our part to give the homeowner the reasonable opportunity to correct the problem, because ultimately that's all the complaining citizens should want, is that the problem's corrected. So if the property owner will do that, then there's no problem remaining. And so we should try to help assist in that manner if possible. However, at that point, if you've got a property owner that absolutely has abandoned a piece of property for years and years and years and just seemingly will not take any kind of action to make it where it does not adversely affect the property owners around them, then that's a different scenario. And in giving them the process to rectify if they choose not to, then I don't think we've been necessarily unfair in trying to take some kind of action.
And then really the only other question is what Mr. Newberry started with, what breadth do you want this thing to have? And I say a little more specifically what I'm getting at. If you look at this thing, basically you start 14.7B, and it says whenever a request is filed, we just talked about that any building, dwelling, structure, property is unfit for human habitation. So one is either unfit for human habitation, or two, or commercial industrial business. So you can't live in it or use it for commercial industrial business. Or it's not in compliance with applicable codes. Or is vacant, being used in connection with drug or other crimes. So it's not just a vacant property, it's vacant and being used with, for crime. Or it's an endangerment to the public health and safety as a result of unsanitary or unsafe conditions. Now, this is just me reading it, but that's unsafe or unsanitary, not unsightly. So what breadth do you want this thing to have? I think it's one of the questions that we're trying to, what Mr. Newberry started with is, do you want to take, this was our abandoned property ordinance, and we're going with those conditions, because if those don't apply, the rest of this document doesn't apply. It has to meet those conditions, one of those conditions. So, yeah, again, just looking for guidance. Is that what y'all want, or do you want something other than that to apply?
No, I don't think if somebody's got a dilapidated building, if there's no drugs and nothing going on there, you know, it's his property.
There's no historic buildings, I don't think it's on.
It already, you shouldn't have any control over that building. If something's not going on, then it needs to be.
But they hurt, yeah, I just want to avoid
As Mr. Newberry pointed out to me, this does not include farm structures, it doesn't include pole barns, it doesn't include those kind of things. Now, the whole historic property, you know, may be something in there.
As long as it's nothing to do with outsiders, I mean, if the building's falling down, I mean, let it fall down.
Yeah.
Even inside a subdivision, if a house is falling down inside a subdivision, and that's affecting everybody's property values around them, just let it fall down.
Well, it might.
That's the question these citizens want to answer.
And see, what you're getting at, Commissioner Jones, is where I'm going in 1476 section in here, which are the standards for determining those things. What do you want that to be? What's falling down, I guess? And that's probably a subjective thing, maybe to me or to you, so.
The siding falling off the outside of the house is partially falling.
But is it habitable, you know, is what I'm saying. Could someone, even though the siding's falling off, could you inhabit the structure? Is it unsafe for habitation? And that's the things that this has to cover. And again, Mr. Newberry and I, as we were talking earlier, we had a very brief conversation too. I think his perspective, and I don't disagree with it, is that's what the board determines, that we all bring evidence and we determine if there's truly a nuisance there or not. So to me, that's really kind of the guidance, what we're looking for. Tell us what you're trying to accomplish, and we can try to write language in there. Is it a shingle falling off the roof? Is it 3 walls falling down? You need to kind of give us a little bit of, you know, guidance on
I
that.
don't think shingle would have nothing, I don't think shingle would have nothing to do with it.
Now, I mean, facetious, but I'm just saying, you know, from one side to the other, how much damage do we really want before we go out and start doing this? And
Here, this started with something that one of your constituents, right? What was the,
She asked to speak just now. by the way.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yes.
You'll have to come up here so we can hear you.
yes, ma'am, we report.
She actually represents a homeowners group that's very active in Westwood subdivision. And they have brought this house to my attention in the past, and I actually went out there and looked and took some pictures and talked to a few people and talked to the building code person that has had problems with this particular property for years. And then, you know, we were told by our zoning administrator at the time that we had no ordinance or policy or anything that would speak to it in any such way. And then probably, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, I saw on Facebook, the citizen that lives next door to the house says, what do we have to do to get the commissioners to act? And I responded back to her and said, you know, I will look further into it. And it just so happens I had talked to the sheriff and the code enforcer the week before that again, because they had talked to me about the property many times, and I've just been in a quandary as to how to handle it, frankly. And I do know that Commissioner DeLoach mentioned at the last meeting that he's had some as well that had been brought to his attention, but he was also told there was no ordinance to deal with it. So,
How about the covenants in the subdivisions? I mean, they have covenants in our subdivision.
And I don't know if
We don't have
we
any, we can't do anything about that.
I don't know if we now require subdivision covenants in all subdivisions, but back in the day, this particular subdivision, being Westwood, I believe is.
So we do have covenants, and that goes with the land.
That's right, and they handle that, homeowners associations. But we do have subdivisions, just like Westwood was the very first subdivision in all of Effingham County, I believe. And there's many that they have no covenants, they have no homeowners association. And what they say to me as citizens is, you have ordinances and you're not enforcing them. So what happened? And so I'm just telling you what they're saying to me. And the house has been vacant for years, just sitting there vacant for years.
That's what I'm asking. If we have I knew this started with a particular instance. What is the situation?
On this one, yeah.
And what would fix that particular instance? And does this cover it?
Well, I guess maybe that's the point that the county administrator is trying to make, does this cover it? Because it is unsightly, absolutely. If you talk to the citizens, they say they feel that the cats and the rats and the things going in and out of the house create an unhealthy situation. They cut the grass, the next door neighbors cut the grass themselves, so that's not a problem. But I guess that's the point he's trying to make is, does the fact that the siding is falling down and the windows are open and the animals are coming in and out, and I don't know about crime. It's surprising that it would be likened to you talk about things downtown, in certain areas, we don't have that problem here so much, but when houses do become vacant for years, they do become a drug house. I mean, that's what they become, so, I don't know.
They say if it's drugs, then we can do something about it.
Yeah,
We can't share it. Just because something doesn't good, I don't know if you can do
But
it.
can we, but are we going to choose to otherwise? And that's a decision, that's what we're trying to say. What is going to be the factor?
Is there electricity in the house?
I do not know the answer to that.
I don't know the answer to any of those. And again, 1476 gives you some of the standards for determining what unfitness for habitation is. And if you look through like 3 dilapidation, and I've not seen the house, so I mean, I understand, I'm not trying to one way or the other, but is it dilapidated? Certainly it's disrepair, certainly it's uncleanly. Is there structural defects? And I don't know. Lack of adequate ventilation, light, sanitary facilities, again, that's if someone's living in the structure, those things don't exist. So, and yes, ma'am, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Does this even fix that situation the way it's written? And we're just trying to determine that scope.
I would think it probably does, because that section 1476, it says such conditions may include, but are not limited to. So again, it's going to go back to have some subjective element to it. I mean, because you have number 6 is uncleanliness.
And typically, when you're going to have a home that is abandoned for this period of time, they would not have paid the property taxes. So probably the house is going to have been taken for tax purposes. So you're not going to have a ton of these where somebody actually pays the property tax and then just leaves the house sit there to rot to the ground. But literally, this home is being allowed to sit there to rot to the ground. Is that their right? Is that their choice? Maybe, but is it affecting the neighbors around them? It is. Is it, when the realtor and the seller across the street say, nobody wants to buy this house across the street from the dilapidated house in the subdivision, that certainly makes sense, does it not? And do we have any obligation to have a concern with that?
It would surprise you to know, when I sat on the Board of Equalization, how many people came in appealing their values, taking the pictures, and this was a structure that had no electricity, no water. The shingles were falling off. They didn't want to tear it down. They just didn't want to pay taxes on it. So, I do like the fact though that the judge has to make the determination, because it takes the liability off of us.
That's what I'm sending it to state court.
And what happens in the case if there's a mortgage on the property?
Well, they're going to get notice, and at the end of the day, either they can step in and do something to protect their collateral, or let it run its course, and they still have their mortgage on the land. So that would be their decision at that point. But if we were to lien the property, we're going to be behind that mortgage.
Yeah. So what happens if the judge decides that it fits all the guidelines and all of this stuff right here? Can we go tear it down?
Do we or do they or who?
He would give an order for it to be abated. And if they didn't do it, we'd have the right to do it and then recoup our costs by going, I guess, filing a lawsuit against the owner directly or placing a lien on the property, trying to get paid that way, which both of those options are probably up in battles.
Similar to how you handle unpaid taxes.
And starting with D there, if after such notice here, the court term of dwelling it gives some things that they start with trying to repair the damages, depending on the cost to value ratio, basically, and it has some language on how that's determined. If it's a non-substantial enough that the value of the property is not, if it makes sense to make a repair, they try to do that first. If not, then ultimately goes down to demolition and we can demolish it and place a lien on the property.
For this particular house in Westwood,
She asked to speak.
Jack Garvin from Effingham County, I'm in Clio, Georgia. Let me tell you this, y'all open this kind of worm's gonna bite your back, folks. Let me tell you what, these people in Effingham County are pretty damn independent. And y'all gonna start this thing, I tell you, it's gonna be bad. I know we have a problem with houses, but let me tell you this, these people aren't gonna say, I mean, these people have guns. They're a little bit nuts in Effingham County. And for y'all to do
where
this,
do you live, Jack?
Clio.
In Effingham County?
In Effingham County, and I'm definitely nuts, but I'm transplanted nuts. But I tell you what, when y'all start taking people's property, and you know, the city of Savannah has done this, but they've done it because people just neglected the properties, and they've made money off of them in the past. But
We're talking about a house that no one has lived in for probably 7 to 10 years, that it's abandoned, and they're just letting it rot.
if they're paying those taxes on that house, I don't see why it's abandoned. You know, if they don't pay the taxes, I can see that it's abandoned. But, you know, I think the citizens of Effingham County is going to have a different look than y'all have. But I may be wrong, because you got to remember, I'm a little crazy.
I'm crazy with you too. I don't think we need to go too far with this thing.
No.
As long as it's not unsafe, you know.
You asked to speak.
Yes.
Would you please?
Thank you. My name is Carol Hogue, and I live in Westwood Heights. And I've been working with Vera, and Vera, I thank you in front of everybody for your efforts for us. We have the oldest subdivision. It's between 50 and 60 years old. The houses range in there. It was a beautiful place at one time, mainly all brick homes. I'm sure all of you have gone through it at one time or another. We're just trying to have a decent home area, just like you want to have. We're not talking about running around and saying, condemn that house, let's take over that. We're talking about maybe 1 or 2 places out of 300 some homes. There's a group of us that has tried to make a group in Westwood Heights that's just trying to keep things looking good. Like when you go down there tonight, you'll see a beautiful garland wreath on the entry. You'll see the blue ribbons supporting the police department. We work very closely with the sheriff's department to keep the tractor trailers out. Somebody told us that wasn't a rule on that. We found the rule on that. We have found the rule about what is negligence on your property. Negligence on your property, I'm not talking about mainly walking in and saying, oh, dirty dishes, dirty floor, your kids are dirty, your kids are sick. We're talking about washers and dryers in your front yard. None of you want that where you're living. None of you. Why should we have to have it in ours? So we're asking, we have found the rules and regulations that says those things that belong to Effingham County. We have gone around ourselves in our time and written up the homes that it's negligence. We're not saying we don't like it, it doesn't look like Homes Are Beautiful magazine or something like that. Just make it decent. Get the refrigerator out of the yard or take the door off of it or something. The major thing that we found in Westwood Heights is you guys could all be stars. Put in the paper, people, we have over 80% of the homes have no numbers on the houses. For emergency, you could save somebody's life by just saying, enforcing the rules you have. Every one of us has to have a visible number on our house from the road. Not painted over with the same paint of the house. Not just on the mailbox. You should put that notice in the newspaper every month and get it done, because you're going to save somebody's life.
Well, everybody's supposed to have that already on their houses.
Well, sir, I've got the numbers of people that don't. Can I give that to you, Toss?
Yes, ma'am.
Over 80% of 300 homes don't.
One of the problems that she's mentioning is they have gone through that subdivision and they've given us a list of many of the infractions. But what our problem is, we do have codes on the books that we do not have the personnel, money-wise, to actually support enforcing. So what are we going to enforce?
And I'm here to ask your help, and one of the things, the major thing that Vera brought up tonight, we just want this turned around. We don't want anybody getting in trouble. We just want to say, hey, John, do you know, you can't do that. You gotta get rid of cars with no registration, okay? Or people maybe sleeping in a car, or something like that. You know, it's hard to believe some cars in Westwood, I mean, how many times can you have people with 7 to 10 cars in the yard each night? So I'm just asking you, and I'm offering to you, we have some fine senior citizens that would find the time to sit down and maybe work with the attorney to maybe try to more segregate these rulings. But they're on your books. So what we're asking you to do is enforce them. So please, we would help you try to write them so that it was maybe easier to understand. Have a process for taking care of this to the magistrate or something like that. Give somebody 30 days, give them 60 days. We really want the situation turned around. But you are killing the value of our homes. So in essence, you're helping Effingham County. Rankin has tightened up all their statutes for zoning. We don't even have one on the books for the length of grass. Was it knee-high to a tall Indian? It's fine. We just need your help. You got it on the books. We're asking for you to enforce it. There's not a person in Westwood Heights that has a penny to put money. We don't have any dues. We don't have anything. We just have people that are concerned, that have lived there most of their lives and want to retire and don't want their house worth $20,000 when they get done. And I implore you, please, but we will offer our help to work with you. Anything you need, we will do it. But again, I thank you, please help us with this. But the major thing is not to condemn a house or say somebody's unclean. That's only 1 or 2 places, and that can be arranged, that can be taken care of to hopefully turn that situation around. But you wouldn't want to live across the street from that house, would you? Would you, Mr. Loper?
I don't know. I don't know where the house is.
No, pardon?
All right, you mentioned there was a list. We got a list?
Yes, sir, I do. I have a copy on me, it's in my office.
It's been presented to Lee for attorney's opinion, and he has given that back to me. I don't know about Charles.
Making people regulate the height of grass, that goes way beyond this. We were talking.
I was just saying Rankin, the city of Rankin has gone to that measure. We're not going to that measure. I'm just figuring if we can maybe find, you know, but I'm talking about the rules that are on the books. These are all on the books. The main things we've written up is 2 subject matters. 1, people do not have the number of their home visible from the road for emergencies. That's major. And number 2 is negligence. Simply negligence. And that's what you saw Mr. Newberry write in the main part of those rules. It's just negligence on homeowners.
But as far as this tonight,
Yeah.
I would say this, Mr. Jack, this ordinance exists, okay? It is on our books.
They're on your books.
We were told it didn't exist and it wasn't, but it is. So we either need to support it, remove it, whatever it is we're going to do with it, we need to make a decision on that, one or the other. And I've got to be the first to say I'm about as strong as it gets on individual property owners' rights, period. If you spend your money, your life, for your property, it should be a heck of a no for anybody, especially the government, to be able to take it in any kind of way, period. However, I do see a point in an extreme situation, and I do believe that this particular house is fairly an extreme situation, and where the individuals have shown absolutely no concern for the property in any kind of way whatsoever.
Has your homeowner association reached out to the individuals?
We don't have a homeowner association. We have just,
Reached out to see if
I can say this on record.
I've tried to find the person 2 or 3 times. I've gone from one house to another
Let
house
me
to
say this
another
on
house.
record. Let me say this on record. When I spoke to the zoning administrator, the code enforcement officer, when I spoke to him the week before I saw this on Facebook, he told me that he has attempted many times to deal with this man and that he has felt threatened by the individual. So, and that I should be very careful myself.
But far as the number of the house, I don't know if it's an ordinance, but Effingham County has one that you're supposed to have your numbers on your house labeled.
Right?
So it's for the fire department or the EMS, so they can find your house.
That's true.
And I don't know if that's an ordinance, I don't know if that's a.
It's right in those rules.
But it is in the rules of Effingham County, you're supposed to have that on there.
And that's one we wrote up, and also the other one's the rules of Effingham County. And that's where we're asking you to please enforce. And if you need help, a workshop of people to talk with you or to ascertain what you really want to say, because this is kind of probably hitting you cold turkey tonight, please, just let us know. We'll work with you any way we can. We just want to keep the value of our homes.
I understand. Thank you. I would like to have that list, apparently.
I don't think anybody does me because it was my citizen.
And it's hard for me to make a decision on something about when we know there's at least one case that's the center of our discussion without seeing what this house is.
I got pictures that show you.
Like I say,
But I didn't know pictures.
maybe nobody else feels that way, but I would like to go look at it. Number two, the ordinance is on our books. Yes, there is one there, and it's been brought to light. Whether we can enforce that ordinance or not, because it's in conflict with present state statutes, is what I don't understand. And I would have to, we keep saying we've got this ordinance, enforce it. I don't know whether we can enforce it.
I would say that you can.
I wouldn't the way we can.
Then we should vote to repeal it or improve it.
Well, that's what we're doing here.
And not based on this one house,
Exactly. This is,
for sure.
we've talked a lot about the one house.
So you got situations where neighborhoods,
Not based on this one.
the neighborhood I live in, I deliberately, made the decision because I knew there was protective covenants and I knew my investment would be protected.
Understood.
And this,
There's
Doesn't have that.
it's a big.
most do.
Yeah. And I don't know where Commissioner Loach's properties would be, but those would be probably not necessarily in subdivided. So it is a,
But when I hear things, I'd like to know how many's on this list that's numbers.
I don't think it's simple there.
That's-
When you go for it, put your nose on it.
that's separate from this, what we're discussing tonight. It's completely separate. It's just something she brought up. It's separate. That's not on the agenda.
Construction and inspection, so at least maybe.
The only thing on the agenda for this is this.
I just have a question. Is there anything in I'm Claudia Collier from South Effingham, about insurance that you have to, like, she mentioned a refrigerator might be on the front. If a child was to get into a refrigerator or get into some other kind of a dangerous situation, it's like I have to have a fence around my pool. And I'm pretty sure it was the county that came out and told us we had to have that. It's all a matter of, are there any requirements for a homeowner to have insurance for liability for
I don't think
something?
there's words in here about insurance, but there are words in here about safety. And so those are the kind of things that you get into when the person goes out to verify if the place is safe or not.
Right.
Is it safe to have a house where teenagers could come and go at will within the neighborhood because it has nobody there? I don't know.
All right, Matt, it's my understanding, if there's criminal activity going on the property, drugs being used or whatever, the sheriff has the right to go in, condemn the property, and do with it as he sees fit, with no other judicial.
Separate.
But this is a different story. This is and all we are doing is becoming a conduit for citizens to bring it to us in order to take it to a judicial authority. So I just would like to know the parameters of what's out there so that when we create this conduit, what I would hate for us to do is pass something and then 2 months from now, 5 people sign something and come up here and it's a valid, and we didn't do anything that would affect it. I don't know. But then again, I know before we've had issues with buildings actually falling down, and it was kids playing around it. That creates a whole nother issue, but then again, it's a civil matter. if somebody gets locked up in a refrigerator and suffocates, it's
Well-
not, it's,
Our ordinance could be that the citizens go straight to the state court. I mean, if we want to be out of it,
They could do that right now under the state statute. They could proceed that way. Now, they're going to incur the cost to do that. They're going to have to hire their own lawyer to file the proceeding and proceed that way. But that is an option they have right now.
so it's my understanding this right here is not doing anything that they can't do on their own. It's just putting the county,
in a place where we would cover that cost more or less.
that's right.
I mean, most homeowners, you are paying for it through your dues.
Right.
They have to make that proceeding. So you are, funding your own.
But we do have to figure out if we're going to have any enforcement that is reliable enforcement for subdivisions, old subdivisions that have no homeowners association. And if we're not, let's say so. Let's say so. One or the other. Let's be clear to them.
Yeah, that's what I was stating earlier, as far as just either, we're going to look at this one particular area, or do we look in total for regulating, the other issues?
Yeah, pick up on what Ms. Owen said. I know
I don't want to get into, it's going to take us a year to do the whole package.
Well, I think what he's asking is like the grass, she brought it up, I know she maybe not meant that literally, but do we want to regulate the grass? Do we want to regulate the refrigerator on the front porch, the 4 cars in the driveway? Because this doesn't do that.
They don't do it.
This is abandoned
That's
building.
why I think abandonment, this is about abandonment, is it not? Is this about abandonment? Okay, I think we can deal with abandonment one way or the other more quickly than we can how we want people's grass be or not, personally. But, so I'm for definitely making a decision on this. It doesn't have to be tonight, but I'm definitely for making a decision on if we're going to take any responsibility within this or not. And then definitely can look at the rest, because that issue has been brought up in a way that we need to be more clear about it.
Well, under 1476, item number 6 is uncleanliness.
Yeah.
What's the definition of that? Refrigerators in the front yard sitting on the front porch is unclean.
Disrepair, right.
I mean,
Who makes that decision?
It's definitely subjective. So
It is.
when you go in front of the judge, the county's going to be saying one thing, the owner's going to be saying the other, and it's left for the
The
judge.
way this reads, whatever individual we would determine, whether it be the engineer or the zoning administrator or whoever it is, would make a determination based on their inspection, which can be somewhat ambiguous, but, they're going to decide does it meet these standards, and then allow it to go forth to the next item of giving the citizen the opportunity to repair and rectify or going to state court. That's what would happen right now.
I mean, I'm in agreement. I don't think any of us are looking to take anybody's property.
Right.
People should maintain their property. I don't, someone said, I hate to have that not across the street from me.
Right.
but I hear a lot of things, and is somebody going to say, well, you got 7 cars parked in the yard, and it's unclean? I get 5 neighbors to come and
If they all wake up and run, I would say, no, it's not there. You can have
well,
that.
there you go.
Now, if they're abandoned sitting on blocks and tires are laying around it, then I don't have a
I
problem.
mean, what I'm hearing, we need to take any boilerplate protective covenants of a neighborhood and adopt that as an ordinance.
Pretty well.
I mean, to cover everything up here. That's not what we're trying to do, but
I understand that. I think in this case, we're trying to.
This case, we're trying to, yeah.
Well, that's what we're talking about tonight, is abandonment of property. And so if we need to stick to that, I feel that's what this ordinance is about. Do we want to support something about abandonment, or do we not?
If we focus on abandonment, we can always add to this ordinance at a later time. if we
I
want
can
to.
support that. All I'm trying to say is what constitutes abandonment? I mean, it's subjective. I think
There's
it
no
means,
flow of water, there's no electricity, the windows are not.
Well, according to Mr. Jacks, if the property taxes are being paid, it's not abandoned. Okay, so we might have to decide if we agree with that or not, but my understanding of abandoned means no one lives there and hasn't for a long period of time.
Yes.
If the property has been abandoned, no one looks after it, no one lives there, it's being allowed to rot to the ground.
Not necessarily vacant, not necessarily vacant. It could be vacant and not abandoned, right?
If this board wants to pass this,
Yes,
if they want to make a motion to pass this first reading of this tonight, and y'all want to come up with all your tweaks and whatever of this before the next meeting, then we will tweak it and move the second reading probably until we can present all of that next meeting.
I also don't mind if we study it further and do a first reading after everybody's input
Well,
at another day. We don't have to,
and that's fine, but it was sounding like you wanted something done tonight. That's what,
no, that's not what I meant, but that's not what I meant.
that's what it sounded like to me. I was trying to.
I just don't want to postpone it off to, let's figure out how we're going to regulate grass cutting along with this.
All right.
Okay.
No, I don't think we need to regulate that.
So does anybody want to give me a motion to table this first reading to our next meeting? And everybody have all their tweaks and present them at next meeting?
I believe that Stephanie will send us the old, or I know I probably have it, I know I do have it. But obviously I can't find it because I didn't find it last time.
I think it's in here. I think it's in here. It just wasn't highlighted.
Was it in here?
It's in here, yeah. It just wasn't highlighted, so you have to fully put them side by side. And,
I got you.
okay.
It's in here. I got it from last week. And I'm not trying to kick the can down the road. I just don't want to do something.
It's in depth. It is in depth, there's no doubt.
Mr. Chairman, in consideration of which meeting you're going to table it to, this week is agenda week, so it only gives you just a few days to
I
clear it.
understand.
So do you want to table it to the
Let's
first meeting
table
in
it to the
January?
first meeting in January. But I would like to have that list of properties emailed to me, please. I'd like the opportunity to ride around and look and see what you have been looking at. I'm a visual person, and if I can see what's the issues.
Have you read the Westwood lately?
I have not been through Westwood lately after the drainage issues, but I've spent so much time down there. I haven't had a reason to go. But that's the reason I would like to. I'd like to see what's the items of issue.
I think 2 through 7, page 2 through 7 is the new proposal, and like 11 through 16 is the old one. But, you're ready for the motion, I'll be glad to make a motion for January.
Stephanie, if you would, you have a copy from last meeting from the old ordinance, email that to everybody, please, so we'll get it.
I can, it's in that material.
It's right here.
I was
It's
gonna
in
say-
it may be,
I'm just telling you what pages it was, it's right here.
It's right.
It's
It's starting on page.
Starting on 11.
11 through 16.
11 or 16?
16.
16.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
11 and
There's that
16.
state law references.
No.
See, I thought that was
That says Effingham County, Georgia.
Yeah, it's our current.
okay, forget it.
Okay.
See, when I talked about that while ago, I thought that was the state statutes that we're referring to for this.
Now, some of the state laws or references may not be in effect in the current ordinance. Is that what you're thinking?
The state laws are just referenced as numbers where we would have to look them up. That's what my plan was. Okay. I'll make a motion that we table this item until the first meeting in January.
Second.
Do you have that date, Spencer?
5th, January
The
5th.
January. Motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Kiefer to table this item to January 5th, 2016 meeting, at which time we will have all of our motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. And please please don't think that we're just not concerned. And I'm speaking for myself, and I think the sentiments of everyone, if anyone disagrees, tell me. What we don't want to do is have government overreach and do something that shouldn't be done. And we want to be sure that we cover all the bases that need to be covered, so we won't be having to do it again.
I feel the same way, and I won't let you go.
And I thank you.
I can attest to that.
Look around you and talk to all the rest of the people that are here tonight. This is common.
Well, I'll make this statement, we're all okay with the fact that if there's drugs going on in there, Jimmy can go deal with it. Or we're okay with the fact that if because it's vacant and a fire starts there tonight because kids go over there and do something and fires, have to go deal with it, then that would create that scenario. So there are levels in which we need involvement, even though none of us want to have be involved in personal property rights, but we have to figure out what that is.
Sometimes the word public nuisance comes into
That's right.
play.
Stephanie, can you, before then, can you reach out to Rankin? As I've heard tonight that they are opening up some of their stuff. I'd like to see what all's out there.
We don't have another meeting this month?
15.
Oh, come on.
Oh, you don't have one in December, that's
Oh, but we're having so much fun.
Oh, I love it. I'm here.
No, we're going to have one. We have the audit that we've got to deal with that still is lingering around out there. All right. Have I missed anything, folks? I am told that we do not have need for an executive session this evening. Is that correct, Andy? Sounds right. All right. Unless, Stephanie, do I have the executive? Oh, she just left us. I need the minutes from the executive session. Commissioner asking me if we need an executive session to talk about our personnel issues.
It's up to you all. You want to just talk about them, certainly can.
If we have an issue, well, I'm not even addressing it.
Well, basically, let me ask you, you got the executive session minutes from last month? Working on it? What's that? Where do we stand with hiring anybody in the building department? Do you know?
No, sir, I don't. I was trying to catch him today, and I didn't before this meeting. I don't know where we're at on that. As y'all remember, I was at town hall last week. Before that, I had asked, and they had 2 interviews they were still trying to do. And I don't know what the status of that was, whether they got them done last week or not.
Well,
Getting bombarded with.
I think it would be non-fruitful to go in there and have the same conversation, so. But would you please, let's see where we at with that. We need to get that dealt with.
Yes, sir.
All right, Stephanie, just giving you the executive session minutes from November 17, 2015. If you'll look at those for me. You were here. That's why yours is empty.
And I was saying for this as well.
No corrections or additions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the
Make a motion to approve November 17th, 2015 executive session minutes.
I'll second that.
motion by Commissioner Loper, second by Commissioner Floyd. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? As Commissioner Kiefer stated, he abstained from vote because he was not present. All right, I think that's the last item of business. Mr. Toss, what you got?
I have a few things, one or two, which may become slightly lengthy if y'all, if there's anybody else who would like to go ahead of me.
Oh, go
Anybody
ahead.
have anything?
I'll show you that.
You got your reports, as Ms. Johnson just reminded me, Eggs and Issues is tomorrow morning at 7:30 for those of you all who are going. It's at the College and Career Academy. You have in front of you a thank you letter from Eden Missionary Baptist Church expressing their appreciation for the recent tax waiver request that you all approved. Just as another reminder, Effingham Day at the Capitol will be the 25th and 26th. We got to have those rooms booked by January the 5th. That's going to creep up on us fairly quickly, so if you all know that you're going, please tell Ms. Johnson so she can start making those reservations. The Georgia Department of Administrative Services is holding a workshop December the 9th from 10 to 12 on Bull Street, it's the old courthouse where Chapel County Engineering and all is, to talk about some programs that they administer, which are the P card, WEX fuel card, statewide contracts, surplus property program, and indemnification programs. Many of y'all are interested in attending. The ACCG District Days at the Capitol, that is coming up on us again. It will be February 17th this year, 8 to 12, in the Blue Room at the Depot. And as a caveat, they've given y'all 3 continuing education credits for attending, should y'all choose to do so. There's a draft agenda attached in your materials. One of the things I want to bring up with y'all and get some guidance before we get too far down the road on, and this is the infancy of a project. You all have a little map up there that looks kind of like this with a bunch of little circles on it. That is our existing wastewater treatment facility. The 3 million gallon reuse pond is not there. We ended up building a 500 million gallon reuse tank beside it. But all these little brownish circles are the current spray field that we utilize at the plant. That was a temporary system that was put in probably 2009, I believe, maybe 7. It's all run above ground. PVC deteriorates above ground. It's spraying on existing pine trees. I think it was always intended to be a temporary system. It's become permanent. Some years ago, we bought materials to replace all that buried underground. Some of that work has been done, but not all of it, given we were trying to do it internal with existing staff. The other green and red circles were future expansions that were planned that are not currently done in the little purple. What I would like to do is, first I need to have some discussion with EPD about how this changes our permit or what we have to do to get there. But we'd like to go in there and solicit timber prices from some timber companies to see what we can get for the timber that's on this particular tract of land, have that harvested, use the money to go back into the project to do some of these improvements. What we would anticipate is having the timber company come in. The green ones out here, just as you may recall, the land we have under contract with Elba Express for natural gas compressor station, that would never happen. But these pieces down here, I'd like to expand. We would have a timber company come in, harvest the timber, give us whatever money we get out of it, then we would, with internal staff, go out and use root rakes and dozers and get this cleaned up and burned to a point that we could have it all leveled out, put in irrigation systems, have sod, have hay, have something out there we could turn and lease back to someone for growing of crops that are not edible, for human consumption, to do that. 2 things necessitating this. One is the existing field out there is getting in bad repair because it was a temporary field above ground. And secondly, we need additional capacity. And all this wet weather we've been having has given us a bit of trouble on our existing spray fields between this and Staffordshire. And we need to increase that capacity. We're not at our permit limit, but we need that it's a combination of the dormant season and the wet weather, and again, it's given us a little bit of trouble. So what I'm asking for is if anybody had any issues with that, if not, we're going to move forward. We probably will see some bids out there for timber prices and so forth. wanted to let y'all know that was coming before it happens in case anybody asks. Now, we have several local people that are probably interested in providing their services. So, we would like to get that out in the next couple of weeks, advertising, of course, anybody, the more the merrier we have come in here.
Do we have surplus timber?
That's what I was thinking.
I'm glad you brought it up, because it occurred to me the other night, it's property, our surplus policy says real or personal, it's gotta be one or the other, so I would have to assume we have to surplus it at some point.
Because you're selling the timber, I mean, that's what you're getting the bid on,
Yeah.
sell the timber.
So you basically surplus the bid?
Surplus the timber.
Now, we've got to surplus the timber off of this property before we can get bids on it, I would think.
I would agree with that, then we would take sealed bids, I guess, however we would do it, or advertise it for bid, and I don't cut timber, I'm not in that market, but I believe you have people come in, they cruise and they give you a price to cut it, different.
They buy it.
They buy it, yeah, they give you a price to buy it, so we will get prices from whomever's interested and take the highest bid and allow them to go in and cut this.
How big is the timber on there?
Mr. Loper, I really don't know. I've been out there recently, I haven't paid that much attention. I mean, it's grown over the, we've had the property since 2005, I believe. We've had it for a pretty good while. It's, it's not huge, but it's not 4x4 little fence post either.
That's why I was trying to figure out how that would work. That's why I said you surplus the bid, because how do you surplus the timber that's not cut?
Isn't that what you do?
Well, just like you would a property, you just surplus the property and
How do
increase
you
it.
do it between minimum?
They determine what they're willing to give.
Yeah, just like property, let me just surplus.
Basically, it's going to be a bid.
Then instead of putting that for a sealed bill, we're getting, it's effectively a sealed bill when it comes back.
The other question is, you're cutting timber, are you cutting timber over where these pipes are?
On part of it, yes, sir.
So you'd almost have to cut it in, you'd have to cut one section, get over there and fix all of that, grade it, dress it off, put your pipes and all in, so that you can keep the other section operating.
To some degree, yes, and it depends on timing during the year, because this field at Staffordshire should handle everything that we have right now. It's not ideal, it needs to be circulated through. If it's summer, if it's not raining, there's 28 acres of irrigation over here that we're actually using. Of that 28 acres, there's 7 zones or so, I think only 1 or 2 are operable. So there are some non-operable zones that we can start first, but yes, sir, we have to keep this field somewhat in repair. But what they're doing now is coming into this pond, it's labeled reject pond, and they've got a diesel pump, and they're pumping with that diesel pump out through the system, so it can be altered to be to our water.
Is this reuse quality water?
Yes. We've also reached out to the power plant recently, and we've got at least one of the lab analyst level persons to agree to sit down and have a conversation with us about taking it to them.
I'm about to say that was the whole intent to begin with.
It is, they were a little reticent to take it based on a misunderstanding of what they thought we had. When we explained to them the levels that we're treating this to, they were a lot more desirous to sit down and have a conversation with us. So, they draw 800 to 1 million gallons a day. We're using 300 now. They can take every bit of what we've got.
And this doesn't even become an issue then?
Well, that's what I want to clarify with EPD, because what if the plant shut down? We still have to have a place to take this water. So I don't think our permit would allow us to solely use them as a reuse source in case something happened to that. But I want to have that conversation with EPD, because I also don't know if cutting the timber will affect the hydrology of this. Trees suck up water. So I want to have some of this conversation with, before we go, I just want to let y'all know that that's where we're heading as we get there. It'll be a process.
Why don't you have all those conversations and get it together and then come to us and say, this is what can happen, I need to surplus this timber?
Yes, sir. I'm not asking you to do it tonight. I'm just saying we're going down that road. So if you hear it out there that we're having these conversations, that's what's going on.
Okay.
Bunch of pretty green job. The last one I have is during the last legislative session, the General Assembly adopted House Bill 192. That changes how county elected officials use PCARs. It's effective January the 1st. No county elected official can use a purchasing card or a credit card unless the Board of Commissioners has publicly voted to authorize the elected official to use that card. They've adopted a policy regarding the use of said cards, and the county elected officials have entered into a contract with us to do so. ACCG put out a model ordinance on this. We got it a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago now. You should all have a copy of it. This is what came out from ACCG. You'll see there's a lot of strike through on it. We have went through and marked up the model ordinance to what we would like to propose to you all. There is a resolution, there is the ordinance of regulating it, and there is the agreement. All three documents are in here. It really doesn't deviate from what we do now. Our current purchasing policies have all of these things in there. There's really no new requirements on y'all other than you're being asked to sign an agreement, which is in here, and there's got to be a resolution. So this has to be done by January the 1st for you all to hold on, and not just you, every elected official. This has to be done by January the 1st for you all to hold on to this card, or we got to take them back. So we got one more meeting. We want y'all to see this, to be looking at this, to have questions between now and the next meeting, so that we can, and again, as Stephanie pointed out, that's this Friday. You know, that this needs to start getting towards the agenda.
I think that, for just my personal opinion, that information needs to be emailed to all elected officials in Effingham County to let them be aware that there's been a state requirement change, and that we're, that it's all covered in our existing policy except for the actual agreement that is coming up for a vote, and that we'll have to vote on it in the next agenda, we're going to retain them. I think they should be made aware of that, just in case they have any input in some way.
But it says county elected officials, is that?
There's a list on the page, well, there's no page.
I assume it would apply to everybody.
Anybody that it applies to, I think should be given
Very first one. Flip over to the back, and it's all elected officials, chair of the commissioners, all the commissioners, coroner, magistrate judge, probate judge, sheriff, superior court clerk, tax commissioner, solicitor, state court judge.
Otherwise, they'll just think we came up with it.
I'm saying, yes, ma'am, we definitely will do so.
He discussed this when we went to the 12th district meeting.
That's correct. This is the model ordinance he said will be coming. And again, it's marked up what we would present to you all. We were presenting it today. As y'all read through it, I don't think there's any big surprises, anything spooky in this thing. So, you know, if y'all would take a look at it, give us any feedback, as it will be on your next agenda, as we need to get this done before January 1st. And we will get it out to all of the elected officials as well.
And then you got to get everybody to sign this by January 1st.
Currently, our policy itself mirrors this extremely. The only difference really is that there has to be a resolution. They've already signed an agreement that covers, I'd say, 99% of what's in here.
That's what they told us. They said if nothing changes, you just got to sign it. You know. Anyway.
But if there's a new one they've got to sign, then I want them to be aware.
We have already talked with a couple of them. We were going to do that tomorrow.
Just listen and email them, right?
Yes,
So it-
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's it.
Just have to have a resolution.
Well, resolution, ordinance, and an agreement, all three are in here. Now, a bunch of this in the back is actual state law, you know, so it's really a lot shorter than what it appears to be. So if you all will look at it, give us any input, you know, the next couple of days, we'll have it on the agenda. We will reach out to the elected officials again. We just want you to see it before it hit the agenda, because, and we wait on the model ordinance to move forward, and it is, timing is a little short on that. And with that breakneck speed, Chairman, I am done.
Ready for another 30 minutes?
Make up some things.
No. Forrest? Here?
My only thing is what we mentioned earlier, I'm getting bombarded with different contractors and builders on the time to receive permits. And I think I'll have that.
I think they have one right before the meeting.
Got what now?
So I think we have one right before the meeting to RC talk to, I didn't get a chance. I haven't had a chance to talk to RC, but I think that's what he's asking.
Any way we can move forward.
It's a commercial property.
Jamie?
Same thing Phil said, just making some calls for some builders about permits. Second thing, the City of Guyton gym, the $1,800. Are we looking into that?
We did. We actually had a conversation, Deanna and I did today with them. and I was going to get with you after this meeting. The conversation you and I had the other night, I believe, to be correct, the difference is in what we understood today. Deanna, correct me if I'm wrong. Apparently, their bills have been much larger because the heat is not being turned off. And so that has increased substantially their cost. The amount they were thinking was that we would pay the bill in its entirety. The agreement is up to the $1,800. And so we asked her today to give us another synopsis. And with that, it appears that the amount that we originally paid is $758 less than what they've totally incurred. There is a second billing, so, but they wanted to restructure the contract itself just a little bit, and so we're waiting to hear from them how they want to restructure that. We told them that we did not think y'all would have an issue with perhaps a set amount for each one of those months, but they're trying to get the actual cost under control. And so they wanted to visit based off of how they do that. So,
All right.
Which is the reason we took it off the agenda.
yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay, and we do have that for you tonight, Jamie, so that we could go through that with you, so you have
Well,
that.
we don't know, it's first time hearing of this. Okay.
We're gonna try to start getting the heat cut, I guess.
Yes.
Is it us leaving the heat on?
All kinds of questions just came up in my mind. I don't know if I get information.
Based off of what she said today, Fiona, and it appears that our staff coaches are leaving it on, and therefore they're incurring more.
Our staff coaches?
Whomever is using the facility. I don't know who that is. I don't know whether it's our staff that's over there at times or
I'm
whether
trying to
it's
understand who
coaches.
our staff coaches is, number one, but it's okay, I'll wait till you get
Volunteer coaches, right?
And the reason why I asked is just this started from last week, the
Yes.
recreation board meeting.
And we did. We called today and tried to address it with Laura.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. The only other thing I have is just a toss I need to give with you. I've had some complaints of folks that haul heavy equipment with some of the low boys. The railroad has built up the railroad crossing there in Shawnee, right off of Highway 21, right there next to the convenience store. And folks are not able to pass over hauling heavy equipment now. They said they went through this about 15 years ago, and they had to get with the railroad and with the county. And I was told that we look into it. I just got a couple phone calls over the last week. I'll just give you on that later.
Good luck, I can show you about 6 or 7 more. It's been that way for years.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Railroads seem to be their own little world.
They don't cross our roads, our roads cross the railroad.
Speaking of railroads, Mr. Lover,
They built them up. Of course, they pay when they build the railroad up. They're supposed to pay to come and bring up the road up to it also. But I don't know who's falling down with the job on that deal.
they come out about 5 feet, and I think every time they retie it, the rocks, I think, build up.
They keep building it up.
Keep building up, they go about 5 feet out and slope that thing down, so like you say, a low boy,
And when it gets over the top of it,
the wheels over here, the wheels back here, it's dragging it up. You got anything else?
no.
Any other staff? Come on, man, you gotta have something. You come to every meeting and sit over there, you gotta have something.
Not to see.
RC, you don't have?
No, I'm good. I do have the picture of the house.
Pass it out.
Westwood, if you'd like
Well,
to.
it's on the screen. You pass the computer on.
Put it on the screen.
Oh, that take forever.
They don't really want to see it.
What's the address on?
Jana, you got anything else?
No, sir, cost covered the items we had.
Fiona, you quiet? Fiona has a moving office. She's here, there, she keeps moving around. I don't know where she's gonna be next week.
Did they have an office?
And Gigi called and said she wasn't going to be here. She was ill this evening. So. See, Patrick showed up. Anybody else? All said, all done? Give me a motion, somebody, to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Loper, second by Commissioner Kiefer. All in favor? None opposed. We stand adjourned.